La 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 la. It's a wonderful sunny Sunday afternoon. Welcome to the first layer.
Yes, it is. Oh my goodness.
And they're talking about panda pies, and that almost makes me hungry for pie.
Exotic.
Exotic pie. Welcome to the first layer. My name's Richard, and of course, that guy over there, that is Brian Baker. We are here with you. We try to be here with you every week. Oh, and Jerry's over in the corner. She's handling the chat today. We are thankful for everybody here today, and we've got some new members, so I'm going to run the members list that have signed up. We are almost at 40 members now, and thank you very much, everybody, for becoming a member of our family and supporting us and all the efforts that we do to try and bring you guys the best information about 3D printing that we can. From our own experiences. Speaking of 3D printing, Brian, what have you been printing this week?
A lot of spaghetti. No, I found a bug with my CR-10 after all my little tweaks and jumbles around with it. Nylon nuts really are kind of a one-shot thing. So once you loosen them and you retighten them, you're going to lose the benefit of the nylon nut. So just a pro tip to make sure I have some Loctite blue on hand, because one of my M5s that hold the X gantry in place decided to work itself loose over time, and so I was actually able to turn my X rod kind of back and forth just a little bit, and it doesn't take much for that to create ugly, ugly, ugly prints, shall we say. So
ugly, ugly, ugly print.
Yes, so we've got all sorts of ugly little tidbits around here. Wait, my feed's looking great for once, really? I'm using my Logitech C920 instead of my fancy dancy camera here that I've been using for a long time. So yeah, thanks. Good to know that worse is better for me.
Well, you know, I've got this nice crisp view, and it's the same view I have every week. So of course I'm not that handsome, but that's okay.
Well, here I'll tell you what. We'll do this. Right, Richard, we're live from the field here. It's looking pretty darn terrible.
I want that microphone.
I know he wants my Super 55. Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about 3D printing. So we're going to take your questions today. We don't have any questions in the chat or in the email this week because we've got few email issues. So if we're not doing your letter to us this week, we apologize. We will get to it next week. Hey, Richard, my big white block of mountain turned out great. Excellent. Thank you, Peter.
Nice.
I've been visiting Peter quite a bit lately, and we got his CR-10s back up and running. And he's having a problem now with one of the CR-10s. I think it's on the Y-axis. We'll check that out at another time.
Diagnostic can be a rabbit hole. Sometimes you fix one thing and then you discover another issue. You know, that's why we always push for don't patch the issue, find the cause.
Yes.
And that's going to make your life a lot easier.
Yes. The Voron, for anybody that's wondering right now, I have been printing more parts. I've had to do some jumbling around because we're still waiting on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that we're not going to get it done probably till the end of June, maybe into mid-July, which is disappointing me because I'm steps away from getting this thing running for the first time. Now, as far as filming it goes, we've had issues with the filming. We've lost audio, we've lost footage, and we had a major crash here, so I apologize if you're still waiting on videos. We are going to build another one after this one. We've decided we're building another one right after this one. So we will probably take that one and show you step by step how to put one together if you're new to Voron and you want to get into stuff. Any hopes of airbrush or painting tips and tricks? Yes, Dominic, we are going to get some up here very soon. I've got some projects sitting upstairs that I still need to finish, and we are going to get in some painting for you very, very soon. All right.
Yeah, we just got held back a bit because the weather has not been desirable for painting, and that's kind of your pre-episode tip is you got to make sure your environment is correct for paint, because the way paint dries, varies significantly based off temperature, humidity, light exposure, and all of that. Yep. So if you're going, especially if you're in a wild climate like Alberta, we always recommend look at internal solutions, like with the proper ventilations. I think Ben Eady recently did a video actually on building your own paint box in the house, and I highly recommend checking it out over here on YouTube.
Okay, we've got a question here from Rex Waldy. Jerry, can you bring that up?
Well, that's a loaded question. I see that already.
Yeah. What causes TMC connection errors? Well, there's several things that can cause the error. One is that it's not being recognized by the board and causing an error. It's a false error. It can be caused by a false error, and that's because there's old firmware still residing in the chip, and it's saying, okay, well, I don't know that you're using this, so I'm going to give you an error. When all you have to do is just reinitialize the EEPROM on the menu, and it usually clears it up. If it is something that's happened over time, chances are you may have a bad step stick, which would be, I don't have any step sticks available at the moment, but it would be something like this. Oh, I do have, actually.
All right.
Look at that, right there. There we go.
Yeah.
So it could be a bad step stick. It could be that you haven't got the jumpers set correctly, depending on the board that you're using. There's many things that cause a TMC error.
So we won't go into the detail of it here today, but just so you guys know, the form factor you see here, this is a TMC 2209. I apologize for the blurriness. I don't have the good camera today, but you'll see the 3 pins there on the side are notably taller. They actually pop out the top. And it's because back when these first came out, what you would get is you'd get a board like this, and the bottom side would be cut off, and you would actually jumper these serial wires over. Now, Big Tree was probably the first one, I think, as far as I know, to the market, to actually make them jumperable pins underneath so you don't have to cut pins and run new wires. But that being said, these wires are critical for the serial operation, not so much for the movement of this. And we'll go into detail in the future here, probably in the next couple of weeks, actually, covering how exactly a smart stepper versus a dumb stepper works on the electronic side, just so you understand. Ben Brady kind of nailed it, usually because of serial port issues. And when we refer to serial port, we don't mean the one that you plug the USB into. We mean on this board, there are actual multiple serial buses, and they talk through these 3 wires here. So basically anything that goes wrong with that communication, you will see a TMC connection error. But it's important to note your steppers will still step and will still move. And usually for me, the most common sign that something's gone wrong if I don't see the TMC connection error warning is that the distances seem to move at double the speed, notably with the 2208s. But we will cover that in the future. There is a lot to diagnose with that, Rex, but if, as Richard said, if it suddenly came up out of the blue, that is a little weird. Usually it happens right after a firmware upgrade and something is not configured correctly.
Okay, audio dropout momentarily for Brian. I don't know.
Really?
Wow. I didn't hear that.
We are suffering all the text issues. I'm actually in the middle of a big rewire here, guys, so apologies if there are some weird things. Like the lighting's all off today because my main camera's down. I finally got my microphone dialed in for the right audio level. That's why I was coming through quiet before. Yeah,
so I might be a little loud today, actually.
Actually, I think between the two of us, we're actually really balanced for once. You guys let us know in the chat, because we have a hard time going back and listening to ourselves sometimes. You know, we're good on you for listening to us because we can't. But yeah, we're just working on a big rewire here. And then for Jess and I here, actually, we are getting a little bit of a rearrangement in the house here where we're going to be able to have an actual production room soon too here.
Yeah, we're working on cleaning up some space in our place. We've got, just so you guys know, we've got a lot of filament coming our way.
Yes,
from
we do.
our good friends over at Matter 3D, which will be available soon on our website, shopfirstlayer.com. And we will be shipping and delivering locally if we need to. So Dominic says the balance between us is perfect. That's great. Thank you very much.
Yay! We're doing something correct for once.
So DeWitt, our good friend, Tim, he says he's been struggling with his FlashForge Creator 3 for a long time. Can't get my Z-axis adjustment to work at all. Updated firmware yesterday and still no luck. Nozzle is too high. I'm frustrated. LOL. That might be an issue we need to take a look at, Tim. And if that being, we can get together and I can look at it and see exactly what might be going on there, because I had a similar issue with my Creator Max 2 that I fixed, and now it works great. So,
and Tim, if you're doing a live stream there later today, let us know, and maybe we'll be able to pop into and remote assist there as well. We love to. We are trying. Honestly, it's not a matter of avoiding them, guys. We've just been so incredibly busy. We haven't been able to participate as much in the community hangouts as we'd like to. So now that things are starting to rebalance here, I'm not going to say it's a COVID thing or whatnot, but as long as things our time is freeing up, we're going to be able to participate more again.
Hey, we got our first super chat today from Henry Stoffer. He says, have some coffee on me. Hope to have Micro Swiss on all my printers. Let you know when I get them. Free in plan to order. Very good.
Nice.
Very good.
Great
Awesome.
stuff.
I look forward to that.
Micro Swiss. Now, this is something we didn't keep you guys updated on, but Richard actually needed a nozzle for his Flash Forge. And we decided to spend a little extra for, it was about $30, and get the Micro Swiss stainless steel nozzle. How is that working out for you, Richard?
It's actually working great. What doesn't work so great, I think, is the PTFE lined throat that's in there, because as you know, with the older versions, the Creator Pro, and the Creator Max, there is a Teflon tube that is in the throat that starts in the nozzle, and you put it in the nozzle, and then you jam it all the way up inside the printer.
You don't have your old nozzle there, do you? It was a really weird thing when we were trying to spec this out. So it's kind of hard to describe, guys, but there actually is an inset on the nozzle itself. Yeah. So the PTFE goes past the heat break and into the nozzle, which actually makes a lot of sense. It actually makes more sense than just the straight up the PTFE being pressed against your nozzle. But with that, there's the caveats, right? So you really have to make sure that your Bowden tube is cut perfectly 90 degrees. That's why we say if you're going to buy some tube, buy one of those Bowden cutters for the $5.
Yeah, you bet.
We just don't like dealing with wait, is it PTFE? Okay,
PTFE.
Because Richard can mock me all for this week. I was completely dyslexic. I was shopping for PFTE stuff because I don't know why PFTE rolls off the tongue smoother than PTFE. You guys tell me what you think. So nobody told me that I was typing it wrong. They just told me they had no products.
Yeah. Just on a side note,
why I should never be a chemical engineer. I'd probably blow up the facility within 5 minutes for switching the wrong letters.
Yeah. Just on a side note, for you guys that are looking for more information on Voron, I do want you to go and check out the Voron Development Group, both here on YouTube. There's a Voron channel. Also, Nero 3D, great guy if you want to learn a lot about the design and how to put them together. He's a great guy to check out as well.
Yeah, he's been doing Vorons for almost 3 years, hasn't he?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Voron's been around now for 6. Coming up on 7, because it premiered in 2015. And it was one of those situations where it was put out there into the wild, and the gentleman who, and his name escapes me right now, but the gentleman who designed the Voron originally had a plan to market them and get them out into the world, and he didn't realize how much work that could really be with a day job, and turned around, and at the end of the day, he just made it open source. So anybody can download the Voron parts. You can build your own Voron. There's a complete bill of materials. There's a spec sheet. There's a place where you can find suggested vendors. There's all kinds. And then there's the Discord, which is a great resource as well. But at the end of the day, how much do these things cost? That seems to be the big question I've been getting lately through messengers. And if you were going to build one from scratch and order everything online, your price for a Voron 300, which is the one that I'm building, is going to sit in about that $1,200 to $1,500 range. And that is US. That is not Canadian. That is US.
And that's based off of you buying at least enough materials that you can do some handwork yourself. If you're going for kits, oh my goodness, guys, the sky is the limit, because people will charge, you know, ridiculous rates. We looked into it. In fact, the only items really that we sourced as a kit was the basically the GT2 belts and gears and stuff like that, because it was just convenient enough. But everything else, like the aluminum and all that, aluminum, if you guys can source the aluminum yourselves from Misumi or wherever and do that drilling yourself, that's going to be a huge cost savings, because the markup for drilling those is ridiculous.
Yeah, if you can tap and drill everything yourself, it's a good thing. Now, what are we going to do with the Vorons? Well, we're planning on making this our print farm. And I've done some
assuming the first one doesn't suck.
Yeah, assuming the first one doesn't suck. If the first one sucks,
this is why we're bringing you guys along on our adventure. We don't have one yet, and so we're following the BOM, and we're trying to see, are we going to get a good printer, or should we have just bought a Prusa? As funny as it sounds, right?
Yeah.
Because it's roughly in that same price range. So that's why we're saying kind of come along for the adventure. If you were planning on building it already and you have the parts, then yes, follow us like start to finish. But, you know, maybe consider just wait until the finale before you start jumping on it if you're unsure. Because we're, you know, the core fundamentals of it are amazing. And, you know, if you've seen any of the other YouTube channels, when you build this thing right, the main benefit is you can get incredible speed, and the system is absolutely rigid. But it requires the TLC up front when building it, or you're going to have something no better than a CR-10.
We got a question there from Daryl Watts. Okay, we'll get to Chad Wilcox first. Afternoon, guys. I was wondering about extending the Y on my CR-10 V2 from 300 to 600. Can you think of any problems I may encounter? Would it be as simple as changing the build volume in the slicer? Yes and no.
Yeah, there's...
You're going
There's
to
a lot
have
of caveats in that.
Yeah, you're going to have to make sure that you're going to have to build that out longer in order to get that longer 600 millimeter travel on the Y. So you're going to need some extrusion for one. You're going to need to place the X and Y, or pardon me, the X and the Z gantries back further in order to get that full 600 millimeters of travel. Then you've got to find a bed. Then you have to find a proper mount for that bed to slide on the Y rail. So it's not that easy to do. And it's not as simple as just changing it in your slicer. Yes, you can change it in your slicer, but unless you've got a lot of the other things tackled first, chances are it's going to be a bit of a headache to do. There's a lot of math to figure out there as well.
So here I got my project printer on the go right now. This is actually a Prusa i3 Mark I, the original kit that I'm retrofitting just a bit, because we're going to be doing a little bit of playing around, see how the classics compare against the current ones here. But what I wanted to focus on is when you're talking about extending this Y bed down here, you need to make sure that everything that mounts to the rails is centered in its gravity. You can't simply go and extend the plate forward out indefinitely, or you're going to have too much vibration. So supporting that bed is going to be your biggest challenge. And what you're going to find is if you go and take that Y to 600, you are going to have a huge, and I truly mean a huge amount of room required both in front and in back of the machine. You're probably going to need at least a meter, you know, ideally almost 4 feet, because you need that bed slinger to basically have it balanced at all times, which is going to mean long carriages and all that. Yeah. Mechanically, honestly, it sounds like a nightmare. So what I would suggest is usually build up. Honestly, like the Ender extender kits and stuff that Mark sells down there in the US, it's good enough for most people. Now, I understand if you want to build a long plotter, but basically if you're doing that sort of length, I've only seen a handful of people do it kind of as a proof of concept, and it takes up so much room, it's not even worth it.
Yeah, that's true. Good morning from Perth, Western Australia, 2 a.m. Monday, first here.
Wow. Oh, nice. Oh, my gosh.
Not dead yet. I like that name. That's pretty cool. Not dead yet. Well, welcome to the stream. From Daryl Watts, he He says, would you guys have any videos on how to use either Octoprint or Pi for newbies that completely computer illiterate? If you don't have any, who would you suggest? I know I asked one time. Daryl, first I'm going to direct you to, is it JMT? I think that's him.
I am not entirely sure. Okay, so I'll give you an idea here, Daryl. We were planning on having Octoprint coming up here when we get to the electronics portion of the Voron, because even though we're doing a Voron build, it is identical to that. But if you guys would like, let me know in the chat right now, and I can do a preliminary video here using my CR-10, which is running an SKR Pro, but apart from that, it should be the same sort of configuration. If you guys would like that, let me know in the chat here. And I will get that rolling, because I have a pile of SD cards and none of them had the footage I wanted this week. So, yeah, that's why I'm behind on episodes. Sorry about that, guys. I was going to find a nice way to ease it in, but yeah, I borked up. I got disorganized. Well, I've got SD cards everywhere now.
In answer to this question, how to set up Octoprint, great guy to watch, and I will always recommend him. He's becoming a very good friend of our channel. And that is Michael from Teaching Tech. Go check him out, Michael Lee from Teaching Tech. He's got a video on it. And then there's
a lot of people covering it. Just to give you guys an idea, the Chris Riley has been, Ben Brady saying Chris Riley. Yeah, he's been doing a couple of Octoprint videos too. I found they got into a lot more advanced stuff. So if you guys just want a basic real-time step through how to set it up, then yeah, I will work towards that here. So I will get on the back burner. I actually have.
There's quite a few guys out there doing it.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, like Octopi and all this stuff, it's a really good management system. Back when it first, when we were first looking at it, Richard, you actually liked Astroprint because it had more remote access.
Yes, I did
versus
at the time.
Octoprint.
Yeah.
And when I was using it, Octoprint still had a lot of development bugs, but it's now become a much more stable system. So, yeah, let me find. I had my Pi right in front of me here like a day ago. So, here we go. I've got two Raspberry Pis here. I've got one Pi 4, which I've laser engraved.
There you go.
The little Zelda symbol, so we'll use that one. I also have, let's see, is this one a Pi? I think this is a Pi 3, but this one I've got an LCD attached to it with a little HDMI jumper, so it's not one of those silly little serial-based screens, but we'll use one of these two here, and we'll set up an Octoprint instance there. And then once we have that all set up, then that will lead into our video for the Voron on setting up Clipper with Octoprint, because that's the big benefit these days to using Octoprint, is that Clipper integrates beautifully into it.
We have an Ender 3 sitting up in the print room upstairs that we are going to probably use with Clipper. Once I install the board, which I will be doing today, I'll be installing this new board from, who are these guys? This is from Aster. I'll be installing this today. And once that is done, then we'll be filming that for this week. But I cannot find the guy that I've been looking for Octoprint.
What was he? I think someone was saying
Michael Tenaglia, I think JMT.
Yeah. JMT is what Ben Brady is saying. He's been kind of absent for a couple of years now, so. But yeah, the content might be a bit dated, but
it's still good content. He takes you through a 3-part series of setting it up.
Absolutely,
which is really good.
But yeah, what I was going to get at with Clipper, guys, the reason why we never really kind of went into depth with Clipper is because you have to add another auxiliary device to your printer to make it work. It actually turns off all of your printer's smart abilities and turns it into an I/O device. Now, for a lot of us, like myself, I have a lot of machines. It was just another management layer to add onto the machine. But I think I'm at the point now, as much as I love Marlin, where, I mean, Clipper has really grown to an incredible state that Marlin's got some interesting catch-up to get into. So I think it's a good time for you guys. And you guys can let me know, are Raspberry Pis becoming more readily available for you around the world? I know for a while there was a shortage, and with the silicon issues, it was a headache. But I've had this one since launch day. For those of you guys who don't know, pretty much every Raspberry Pi I have ordered on the launch day. In fact, I have a photo somewhere of my original Pi 1, the first batch from RS Components and Newark back then. I had to order them from the UK because they weren't even in North America yet. So I have been working with Raspberry Pi for a long time. I've got a lot of them, including those 20 or 4020 boards or whatever they are, the new ones that are supposed to be competitors to Arduino boards. Unfortunately, I think it's not right on my desk at this moment. But when I start getting into programming that, guys, eventually I'm going to see if there's a board out there that basically can use the Raspberry Pi board as the main board for your printer. So stand by in all due time. We got some neat stuff coming along.
Yes. There's a couple of questions coming in. Here's the first one from Mr. Darkhawk, 1972. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Relative new here, but I have a Ender 3V2, but I'm feeling limited by the build volume and its monochromatic design. Any recommendations for a sub 750 dual extruder large printer?
Oh, that's tough. I mean,
yeah, that is really tough.
Yes, but dual extruding, no. Now, that being said, okay, I've been hearing a lot of murmurs about this, but I haven't been able to get my hands on it, so I doubt I'm going to be able to cover it in time before someone else. But I think it's Big Tree Tech is doing an IDEX kit for the Ender 3.
Yes.
Yes, so that, I've been here, I mean, for those of you who don't know IDEX, I've got an IDEX machine actually right behind me here that's in an absolute nightmarish state right now, and trust me, if the email comes back that I'm expecting to get back, you might be seeing a little bit of a Louis Rossmann-esque rant about industry practices on printers, okay? But IDEX, the technology, and I believe, Richard, your FlashForge is IDEX as well, correct?
I have one FlashForge that's IDEX, yeah.
Right, so IDEX is independent dual extrusion something or other, right?
That's basically dual extruder, that's it.
Dual extruder, yeah. So the carriages sit on the same rail, if you will, and have parking points. And it works amazingly. And I'm glad to see that the industry is finally adopting that design. Now, that being said, there's been a lot of different companies coming out with IDEX machines, 800, 900. I've got a couple people on Kickstarter nagging me to back them. And I'm like, no. The technology is good, but the printers behind them have to be good too. And that's why I want to see this Big Tree kit. If any of the Big Tree staff are listening, please send me a kit. I would love to try it out. But that's going to be your best bet for the dual extrusion aspect. And FYI, I don't like dual extrusion above 300 by 300 unless you have a really, really flat dialed-in bed, because you think issues with bed leveling is tough when you have one extruder. Wait till you have two. So that's just kind of my fair warning there. Now,
here's kind of an interesting thing that we talk about IDEX, and because we're doing the Vorons, in the Voron release 1.8, there is a mod now that will allow you to set up tool changing. So that might be a way to go as well if you're into wanting to build something. Now, we might explore that as we dive into Vorons deeper in the year, but right now I have seen some guys who have done the tool changing and it works great. Now I just want to see how far it actually goes. I want to remind everybody that is in our chat today and that is watching the show live, 6 p.m. Make sure you catch DeWitt's stream tonight. He's doing a live stream, DeWitt 3D, at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So make sure that you check that out. Our good friend Tim, he's a great guy. He's local here in Calgary, and he just wants to chat while he's building something. So, how do I connect my printer to my PC? It's called using one of these. A USB cable. And make sure that you've got the drivers loaded on your PC to make sure that it reads that it is actually a 3D printer. Okay, and that should be...
absolutely. Just adding to that, so the 3D printers in general use a two different types of chips when it comes to the serial. One is the oh my gosh, I'm going to forget the company name. It's F something or other. Anyways, there was a lot of clone chips on the market a few years ago, and the company went and tried to put out a driver that would brick those no-name devices. It was an ugly thing. So now most printers should be coming with what they call the CH-340 serial chip. So if you go and plug your printer into your computer and nothing shows up and you don't have a serial port, there's a good chance that you just don't have this aftermarket driver installed, if you will, to communicate with the device. We can go into all the software kind of explanations behind this, but what you need to know at the end of the day is most of them should be using a standard one. Look up your printer, and hopefully the manufacturer has a driver listed for that. Once you have that installed, you'll have a serial port show up on your computer, and or you might even have your SD card storage pop up on your computer as well. It depends on the way that company's printer was configured. So right now behind me, again, I don't have much to show because I don't have, it's going to the webcam instead of OBS today, so apologize for this, guys. But I've got this giant 15-foot USB cable behind me here going to that red printer over there right now. And I'm actually communicating it with via serial, and I can issue all my commands, my G28, my G29. I can key up the hot end. I can even print over USB if I want to. But you do need to have that driver installed, or your printer, basically your computer won't even know what it is. It just says there's something there and we don't know what it is.
Stoner Gaming Paradise. Yes, I know I have to get back to you. I've just had a very, very busy week. I do appreciate your patience. I will get back to you this week. I have your number, so we will talk about your BL Touch issue this week, and we'll try and get into a video call so we can sort through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're
sorry, Jerry, I just pushed that one out. That last one
due to our weather issues here, unfortunately, pretty much everybody had migraines this week, guys. We had some thunderstorms and all that good stuff. So hopefully we'll be completely back.
So Dominic Versetto says, I've heard that it's advisable to put a power blocker on the USB cable when connecting to a printer on your computer. Yes or no? I've never heard of that. I don't use one.
So I know TH3D definitely has a lot of these products here, and let's put it this way: there's no harm in putting the power blocker in. Let's start with that. There's no harm in it, and it provides an additional layer of protection. Now, you guys know me. If you ask me the right question, I could spend the next hour explaining this to you. So I'm going to try and consolidate this to like 2 minutes.
Welcome to the Brian Show.
Yeah, so welcome to the Brian Show. So, whenever you connect your printer via USB, there are 4 lines that are connected to your computer. You have a power rail, which the computer feeds your device. You have a ground rail, and you have a serial in and a serial out that we call transmit and receive. And those are the 4 critical wires. In fact, in USB, it's D plus and D minus, but we'll consider it as send and receive. When you connect it to your computer, the idea is supposed to be USB devices normally don't power themselves, and so the computer has to provide the power. So that's what the 5 volt is for. And then anytime you're dealing in an electronic realm, if you have 2 different DC supplied sources, let's say you have a 12 volt in one place and a 12 volt in another, or a 5 volt and a 5 volt, the serial wires will not work unless they have a common reference ground on both sides, and that's why we need the ground pin. But since the printer provides its own 5 volt power internally for those data lines, then you don't require the 5 volt wire from your computer to the machine. Now, the reason why this is important and why it helps people is because the printer boards are not smart, okay? All it would take for the manufacturers to put a little simple diode that says electricity can only flow out and not back into the board. And so what happens is if you flash your firmware over USB to your printer and you go to the printer and turn off the power supply, your screen doesn't turn off. Your motherboard does not actually turn off because now it's pulling power from your computer to your printer, and that may exceed the specifications of your USB port and potentially cause damage to your computer. So again, it's never happened for me. I'll be honest with you. I've never fried a USB port. But that being said, there are different ways of supplying power, and you'll see on Big Tree text board, there's actually a jumper usually to define where your 5 volts coming from, either on board or via USB. And it comes by default as on board because if you switch to USB and you have no cables plugged in, printer never powers on, simply put. So there's actually benefits to both ways. So if you buy a power blocker, that's fine. It'll work perfectly fine. But do you need one? No, And unless you're kind of looking at running a Raspberry Pi through that USB where it's going to be connected all the time, I'd advise then just to get the power blocker for the $4 or $5. But it's not like, hey, there's a completely overlooked safety aspect that's being filled in by an aftermarket product. It's just an additional protection layer, and for some people, they need that extra electrical stability that, frankly, the onboard 5-volt supplies better than a computer's USB 5 volts. Hopefully that gives you a rough idea. The TLDR is, you don't need it, but if you can get one for fairly cheap, it's like having an additional MOSFET. It's just additional protection.
Yeah. I want to, before we get into Daryl's next question here, I just want to cut over to this. This is our website. And we now have, let me get to the right screen here. We now have, of course, some items on our store, and we are slowly expanding these items. So if you are interested in any of them, please check out our store. For our people here locally, Airdrie, Okotoks, and Calgary, we made this stuff available so that you guys locally could get stuff on a Saturday. And it's really tough to get stuff on a Saturday. But you guys now can do that. We have some of this stuff in stock. So whatever's on our website we have, if it shows up as not in stock, it means it's probably on its way in at some point in time. So I just wanted to let people know about that, because I know not too many people have seen this website, but it is up, it is running, and we hope that you will use it. That's our plan. So that's a little shameless plug. This live stream is sponsored by us.
Yes, because we're getting ready to launch this little storefront. Oh my goodness, guys, it has been so busy, and I've been trying to help out. There's been fire code questions and all this stuff, like way outside my scope area, but we try to help everybody else that we work with. Just stay tuned. We got some cool content coming up with that market setup, just so that you know what we're going to do. But at the end of the day, we want you guys not to be sitting on a Saturday afternoon crying because now you got to wait till Monday to get your printer going again. So yeah, just keep an eye, watch out on our Facebook page. Be sure to subscribe and like here on YouTube to know when everything's coming out. But in the meantime, if you guys are stuck, like for instance today, if you are in need of a nozzle or a heat break, or sorry, the heater cartridge, a thermistor, or whatever, send us an email. We're gonna set up a couple different addresses here, but for now, I think, Richard, are you okay to accept Richard at the First Layer?
Yeah. Yeah.
So send an email to richard@thefirstlayer.com if you're within the Calgary area and you're stuck today, and we'll see what we have in our inventory for you.
I just want to quickly say that Henry's asking where is the link for DeWitt's stream tonight. DeWitt 3D Canada, if you can throw your digits there in the chat or your stream tonight.
I don't think he's scheduled the stream yet, so if not, I can provide you guys with the link to his YouTube channel and just watch it. Yeah, there's no queued event yet. So I'll go ahead and post it in the chat here. Tim has been doing some really cool stuff here. The other night, actually, I joined him a little bit late at night as he was working on a new RC project. So
there you go.
This is going to be, it's a bit more than 3D printing. It's actually going on into some cool projects. And he's working with Sam Prentice right now on building some droids as well.
Daryl wants to know what our opinion is on 4.9.1 Cura's update. I've been using it now for a few weeks. It seems to work just fine. I haven't had any issues with it. It hasn't crashed on me. I've been able to load and unload printers. And just so everybody knows, the Voron is in the latest edition of Cura. So all the specs of the Voron are right there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Here we go. Let's just catch up on all our checks here. So there's a good question in here from Mr. Dark Hawk 1972. Just before we get to the CR-10 V3 one, best shiny / silk PLA under $40 per kilogram. Now, I haven't checked prices recently, but I do agree with DeWitt that Arion silk PLA is gorgeous, especially the rainbow ones.
It works very well. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
And
it's just a good material, and it's readily available on Amazon. So that
we
helps
have
a
it
lot
in our
too.
store on Amazon as well.
Yes, we do.
So, just so people know where it is, and I will get you that link right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of shortages bouncing around here right now. Like, for instance, if I look at their Silk Silver right now, it's $35.99 Prime free delivery with a $5 Canadian coupon. So that brings it down to $30.99. But they are not, I think they're awaiting stock right now. Now, shipping globally, guys, has been a absolute nightmare, okay? We haven't been able to get any products in. I got a bag somewhere here of some M3 nuts that I ordered through ePacket. Or no, sorry, it was AliExpress standard shipping, so through UBI. And it took like 8 weeks to get here. That's why we're having a little bit of a hard time with the Voron stuff. Is like with you guys, we're having a hard time sourcing some of those very specialized parts that we can't even get domestically.
I think my stream just went down.
No. Maybe? I don't know.
Did the stream go down?
Let me see here. Let me go to the page. Yeah, no, we're still going.
We're still going. Okay, good.
Yeah, as far as I can tell.
It just went down on my side, that's all.
Oh, okay. Even better.
Just went down on my side.
Yeah. Ben Brady's saying Cura 4.9.x will be the last version with the current engine. Cura 5 is officially going to use the Arachne engine. Okay, that's cool. For those of you guys who don't know, there is a beta of Cura out with this Arachne engine. It's basically a rewrite of the software that determines the paths for your models. And it supposedly increases the speed of slicing significantly. Now, when I played with it, I couldn't give you a metric, truth be told. It's a little complex to measure the efficiency of each of them. It's supposed to also slice better, which is the big thing. So basically, when I see Cura 5 come out on the beta track, I'm going to pull it out because I want to try it against Prusa Slicer. Now, I've told you guys before, I kind of moved over to Prusa Slicer. I've been liking it a lot more. The only thing that was driving me bonkers was the supports, and I finally found a support configuration that works for me. Sadly, no tree supports yet, but it's just working that much better than Cura at this current moment. So I stopped using Cura around 4.8, and I'm going to revisit it come 5.0. I don't think 4.9 had enough changes for me to say, hey, this is going to make a significant difference without me rebuilding my profiles.
Somebody was asking about a CR10, which would we advise a CR10 V3? Absolutely, yes, I would.
Yeah,
absolutely,
Verse,
I would.
Was up there. Yeah, the V3. I mean, you know what? Creality, they make a pretty darn good product. I gotta say, I don't know. I didn't follow up on the whole CR6 SE and all the mechanical issues and all that, but they've always kind of been the company to jump the gun with either a new design or the first clone of an existing design in a certain pattern, right? So like the belt printers and all that, I do consider them an innovator in that aspect. Now, that being said, the CR-10, which is basically my original printer that I bought after my monoprice select mini. In fact, it's the unit sitting right beside me here that you can't see. It's just off screen. I bought that about a few months before the Ender 3 came out, and it's always been a good machine for me. And when they brought out the V2 and the V3, they just further enhanced it. They didn't go the route of adding features at the expense of closed sourcing it or any of that stuff. It's a good, reliable machine. The only thing I don't like about it is the bed slinger aspect, and that's not Creality's fault. That's everything out there. I would personally say, if you're looking at that size range, maybe to look and read more reviews on the Ender 5 Plus, which would get you the same belt volume, but it takes up less space, and because it lifts the bed up and down, you're less susceptible to vibration on your print. So just a little something to research there, but the Creality machines in general have been a fairly good series. In fact, I think our only critique of them really was when the Ender 3 was first coming out, and they kept on going and adding new, like Ender 3S, Ender 3X. There was revisions of the Ender 3 design, so the Ender 3 that I would sell you would be different from vendor B, and you know, they've done a lot better on that front. So yeah,
Stoner Gaming Paradise is asking, Raspberry Pi Oxprint or SKR V3 board, Creality app for remote printing. I have not used the Creality app for remote printing. I don't have an SKR version 3 board. I have used Raspberry Pi and Octoprint. I am working now. I'm slowly learning how to do the Octopi with Clipper installation, and we're going to be doing that on an upcoming upgrade to an Ender 3, because there's already Raspberry Pi in that machine. So we're going to do that for you guys as well, and just show you exactly how that all works.
So I'm just going to bring this over, guys. I'm going to tell you this right now. If you decide to go with Octoprint or Astroprint or Creality Cloud Printer or whatever the hell you choose to buy, okay? The first thing you want to do is take this cable, throw it out. It's a piece of crap, okay? Seriously. The #1 issue I've seen with people with their Creality machines, or with any machine, if you will, with Octoprint issues, is a serial error as a result of having a really crummy cable. So we're gonna, you can always go to, a company like TH3D and buy a high quality cable, but I recommend go find a local industrial supplier that sells to the automation industry. In Calgary, we've got a company like Ecol Electric. We've got different companies like that, and look into their industrial grade USB cables that are designed to last longer, if you will. Right. They're not going to move much, but they're not going to degrade either. Now, ideally, at the end of the day, and I wish I didn't throw that cable because I don't know where it is now. You want your main board to have what they call a USB Type B connector, which is the square-looking one that you used to see on printers. If you have the mini connector, it's fine too, but it's not a very high-quality connector. And so wiggling it over time will cause the pins to disconnect, and even sometimes the port to pop off the board if you're really rough with it. But if you get a good quality cable and you make sure that there's no room for the cable to snag or be moved around during operation, you should never have a serial disconnect, which would cause you to lose your print job. And we'll kind of go through those details later and all that. But if you're going to go the route of what I consider to be adding an additional layer of failure, which sounds depressing, but it's true. If you lose this, your printer goes offline. If you stick with the printer main board in there and you print off SD card, something like this for monitoring will not impact your print. Exactly. Just a caveat there. So if you're going to spend the money on that, get a good quality cable.
Have either of you played with Kirimoto Slicer? This is from Morgan Pierce. I have not. I've never even heard of it. So this is something new to me. Browser-based
slicer. Oh my goodness, that's really cool. It looks like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's really cool. It looks like they also make the GridBot, so the open source Core XY 3D printer design. I'll tell you. Okay, so cloud slicing, I'm always kind of hesitant on it because resource-wise, like. For a computer, because it's in the cloud, it's supposed to render on a remote system, and that costs somebody money. So usually it ends up paying back on your computer. And in general, I don't like running anything in a browser. But if you're running a low-spec system, I'm curious to see what your experience is with this. Maybe I'll play with it later there. I got it loaded up on my other screen now, so thanks.
Actually, I have it loaded up right now. Let's have a quick peek at it. Cut over to it. Brian, you're muted. There you go. You're back.
Oh. Perfect.
Okay, so what we have here is if you're interested in this, it looks pretty simple. Right now it's going to ask you how to set things up for yourself. Operating modes. What do we have under controls? Let's go to controls. It doesn't give me anything. It won't let me. Okay, got it.
All I can see right now is the quick slicer help on my screen. Is that still up on yours, or?
No, that should be gone. I don't know what you're seeing.
Well, no, you're seeing the quick start guide, the pop-up window there? Yeah. And
then we have controls.
Yeah.
We have support and project. So there's something to be said about this. I'll investigate it more as well.
Yeah, there's a video guide and all that. It creates a block on there by default. What's kind of cool about this, guys, is that it has CNC toolpath generation here as well as laser cutting. So we don't have a laser cutter, but we definitely have some laser engravers. So I'll see if there's something we can see if there's some. Oh, I see. Oh, okay, that's cool. Sorry. If you look at the laser cutting, it also supports stacking. So you can put a 3D model on there and cut out stacks of wood in different DXFs to go and flatten together to be a 3D object. So that's
cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah, we'll take a look into this more into detail, and You know, we didn't know about this when we did our Ultimate Slicer Showdown there, but yeah, we're gonna go and maybe try have maybe a little after party, the slicers you never heard of, like Ice SL.
There you go. There's a tip here from Andrew Hayes. He says, the first layer when I set up my Octoprint, I came across a page that shows the specs for webcams. It was down for maintenance, and now I can't remember where the page was. Do you guys have any ideas? I've never seen that page. I didn't even know it existed.
Simply put, any USB webcam will usually work with Octoprint because Octoprint is based off a Linux installation. Basically, at the end of the day, and this is kind of the hard thing with dealing with Octoprint, is you're basically running a computer operating system on this little device that runs it doesn't run the same architecture as Windows. It doesn't run an Intel processor or an AMD processor. The chip inside is a custom Broadcom chip that basically runs ARM. And so Linux has always been an amazing operating system in that it can run on all sorts of different architectures, and that's why people love it. It runs on your watches, it runs on your smartphones, it runs on practically anything, if you will. In fact, any device you have is probably some variation of Linux. Anyways, any webcam out there, sometimes they have advanced features, but their core underlining, and I'll probably get this wrong, I believe it's a UVC protocol that supports generic webcam, and this applies to any RGB webcam out there. If it plugs into your device, it'll just work. I can safely say Logitech C720, I believe it is, Logitech C920, any of the Logitech stuff generally just works as plug and play with all the Octoprint devices. If you start going on online and start buying some sketchy webcams, they will work to an extent. They won't be very good quality, but they will usually work with a generic webcam driver, if you will.
Okay, there's a comment here from Stoner Gaming Paradise, and this is probably going to chew up the last little bit of time that we have.
Actually, I got to step right away. I'll be right back, I promise.
He says, I bought the Creality 3D viewer camera, and it didn't work. Couldn't add files, and when trying to connect or contact Creality, I was told to upload a video to YouTube. Haven't heard from them, and it's been 2 years. Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that. Let me just get to the overhead camera here. Let me show this to you real quick. So I've got mine running. I have one of those exactly the same. Yeah, you guys see that under nothing that you don't have to worry about. And you can see here at the top of the screen, there's a view from the camera, but I have nothing on any of my tabs here. And the reason I don't have anything on my tabs is because I get an error every time I try and sign in to the Creality host. But I use it just to monitor. As far as getting files to it, you have to put them on the SD card and then slip that SD card into the camera in order to do it. So you're not gaining anything by having the camera do the printing for you and connecting to it. What you are getting, though, let me just turn that around, is you're getting the ability to monitor your 3D print. It was kind of a waste of a product, but I understand where you're coming from there, Stoner, and I would say to you that if it's giving you a camera, use it as a camera. I mean, I can put that camera anywhere in my house and get a view, and I'm thinking about actually putting it outside for when packages are coming to my house. And Brian is still missing, so we'll just go ahead without him. Andrew Hayes says it worked, just wanted to know what spec it had. It's Microsoft HP. Okay, now that's a Brian question for sure. Where can I get the app? Well, the app is available on their website as a download. I believe it's not in the Play Store anymore. It was in the Play Store for a little while, but the API or the APK is available on their website. You have to kind of dig for it. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but for the Creality viewer, yeah, you kind of got to dig through their website to get it.
Yeah, Morgan Perry saying run Wise cams and Octoprint to monitor your printers, best bang for the buck. Yeah, it is. I agree with you there, Morgan. The only problem is their firmware. You have to load a special firmware to get the RTSP aspect, so it's kind of annoying. But you know what? In the end, if you're going to be monitoring from a mobile phone anyways, just run the regular Wise firmware and just check it on your phone, and then jump over to, pardon me, to Octoprint if you need to cancel. It just doesn't, pardon me, work unless you have a... unless you're doing time lapses, then you have to go with the custom firmware route.
I think that's pretty much the questions, except for the one there about Microsoft HD. That's more of your question.
Where was that there? I'm so sorry. Talking about Microsoft stuff.
Andrew Hayes. He says it works. Just wanted to know what specs it had. It's a Microsoft HD.
Yeah, you got to look on. Okay, so Octoprint doesn't. Octoprint, you can define. And this is kind of just like a webcam general thing. I'm sorry, this is going to be a little boring, guys. But basically, when you plug a webcam into a computer, it supports multiple resolutions. If it says like HD 1080p, like my C920 here, right? It will go and load up the video feed based off what the software defines. So inside like OBS, for instance, I can tell it, I'd like to see my video from my 1080p camera as a 640 by 480 at like 120 frames a second. I can do that as an option. So in general, Octoprint comes with, I believe, a baseline config that's like 640 by 480, but you can go and change that. Now, the caveat here is that this guy is good. This little Raspberry Pi is awesome, but it's not as powerful as a home PC. So when I talk about Octoprint, basically the defining factor of which Raspberry Pi you'll use is going to be how high quality you want your webcam to be. For instance, I can run Octoprint perfectly fine on an original Raspberry Pi 1 from way back in, I think, 2014 there. However, that's because the actual G-code processing and all that doesn't take up a lot of system power. Now, when you get onto the Raspberry Pi, I think it was 3 was the first one where they went to a quad-core processor.
Yes.
When it goes that route, we're not going to talk about computing fundamentals, but quad-core allows multiple things to run at the same time without bottlenecking another aspect of code. And when you have a webcam in there that's constantly requiring the read of the frame buffer, conversion into video technology that can be read by Octoprint, and then you're also taking snapshots out of that, that requires a lot of computational power. And so you do need a better quality Raspberry Pi to go and run that. Now, that being said, with the Pi 3 and the Pi 4 on the market these days and good on the Raspberry Pi Foundation for keeping it at $35 US, they are more than powerful to run a webcam, usually at 1080p, 30 frames per second, while running Octoprint. Now, if you start adding all the stuff like the spaghetti detector and meat pack and all this other stuff there, it's going to start bogging it down a little bit, and you may notice stutters in your printing or stutters in your video feed. And that's a first red flag to look at what you have loaded and see if you can take a little bit of load off it. Now, does it matter whether you have the Pi 4 1 gig or 2 gig or 4 gig or now the new 8 gig model? No. It makes no difference on RAM. It's purely on processing power. So that's kind of my thing for the day, guys, is there's a good chance you're only going to need the Pi 4 1 gig model. Richard, I believe the one I gave you was the 4 gig, correct?
Yes. Yes, you gave me a 4 gig.
Yes, and this one I have. So then if I gave Richard my 4 gig, this here is my 1 gig model. So when I do my demonstration here of Octoprint, we're going to be using this, and we're going to see how hard we can push it there. And this is like launch week 1, so I don't even know. I think there was a few hardware changes with the weird USB-C and all that, but it should all be the same for you guys. And you'll see it is really, really, really easy to set up, okay? So that's kind of where my closing mark. It's a very easy thing, but I will get you the in-depth tutorial here ASAP.
All right, he says, I just edited the file at 1080p for 30 frames per second. It's working. Thanks, guys. Excellent.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, you can make any webcam look like trash, okay? You can make any camera look like trash. And a good example, this is kind of an off kind of plug right now, but I can't remember if it was on Linus Tech Tips or Tech Quickie this week or last week there. They did a video on a home webcam streaming setup using the cheapest gear they could find. And the results were surprisingly good once you took the time to adjust everything. And Richard and I use things like the Data Color Spider 24s, I think they are, and stuff to help with color calibration. You'll see, I mean, if you look at my other feeds with this thing here, it doesn't look too bad. But this right now is the Logitech C920 direct feed. This is a $100 camera, and it looks like trash right now because I haven't dialed anything in on it, right? You know, colors, here's a plug for my 10-year-old energy drinks that I just got a hold of. And no, I am not drinking these. But I got some vending machines that came with these on the inside. Yeah, they're old. But you'll see the vibrance is a little off, you know. And that's the thing, right? You know, here's a red, here's a green, where you'd expect them to be the same vibrance level. They're not. So camera calibration is a whole different realm. Yeah. And we might cover it eventually, but it's not a good first layer topic. So we might have a spin-off channel to cover our weird little adventures in that.
There's one last question I want to take before we wrap things up today, and that is from Mr. Darkhawk 1972. He says, how often should you run your PLA in a filament dryer? Well, that depends on where you are in the world. If you have high humidity, you'll want to make sure that when you're finished using it, you bag it with desiccant in the bag and you put it away, and try and get as much air out of that bag as possible. Now, when you're putting it into your filament dryer, depending on the filament dryer brand that you have, and I have two different brands here. One I don't really use.
We don't talk about that one.
But the other one I use quite often, which is the Ebo Cyclops. I can, if I feel that my material is just spitting a little too much, I'll throw it in there, I'll turn it on, and then I'll run it back into the printer again because it's continually drying while it's moving, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So,
the key to remember with a dryer is, and it's not something we really go over often enough. No. But, you know, one thing about a dryer you have to understand is heating it up will vaporize the water vapor that is within that reel. Yeah. If it has nowhere to go, it's just, you're just circulating warm, humid air around your thing. So, and I'm sorry, I've seen a couple posts about this week actually on our group, talking about reading the humidistat values, if you will, like a DHT22 or whatever, and and as soon as you see it hit like 45, 50 degrees, the humidity drops to 10%. Of course it does, because the water is all vaporized to the point that the particles can't read it. Now, if you go and keep that container closed, completely sealed, and unplug that power or turn off the heating aspect of it and let it cool down to room temperature, you're going to see suddenly 25, 30, 40% humidity. So that's kind of the big caveat here is what you can try doing is put some desiccant packs in the top of your chambers where, you know, the vapor would build up, or have an exhaust style system. And I don't know much about that IBOS or whatever you have there, Richard, but
because I've never lent it to you.
No, I've seen a photo of it once or twice there, but I don't know how the circulation method works. Some people, that's the issue with the Sunloo filter.
It has a fan. It has a fan that circulates air. Yep.
So it circulates it there, but it circulates it internally.
There are vents to get rid of that.
Oh, there is. Okay, so that's what makes a good dryer. Okay, is make sure that if you can get an air filter that will filter out water particles as best as it can. Have that as an air intake. You heat that air. You push it across your filament, and then you make sure to exhaust it out without a filter into your surrounding room so that water vapor can go somewhere else. Otherwise, it's kind of like when you get a microwave dish and you throw it in the microwave and you don't cut it open to keep the steam in there. This is the exact same philosophy. If you don't cut that hole in there, you're just cycling the steam through it. So
that's right.
Keep that in mind. And then, as for these, filament drying, even here in Alberta, I don't have the number today. But I've got a roll of G-Tech filament on my CR-10 here. Brand new. I opened it yesterday. Printed perfectly fine. I came in here this morning, and it was already brittle. And I've had 3 failed start prints during the show here. So it can happen to anybody. It doesn't always necessarily, if it snaps in half, that doesn't necessarily mean... or if it doesn't snap in half, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not moisture saturated. You got to hear for that little bubbling and popping, and you got to look at your first layer. If it's looking a little wobbly, more so than usual, then that means that you're basically printing water in addition to your filament.
Hey, listen, if you guys, before we wrap things up, if you're new here, and I see some new names as well, and you want to be like a Cord XTC or perhaps BLCH Halifax, Ian Jones, or any one of our members, you can always hit that join button down below, and you can join for as little as $1.99 a month. And that $1.99 goes into helping us get parts and things that we need to bring you the best information that we can, because we don't get a lot of stuff for free. We have to pay for it. We do get some stuff.
We don't get it. We haven't gotten anything free yet this year, I don't think.
No,
really,
not yet. No. But we do have, we do get stuff from time to time, and if there's something that you guys really want us to tackle, well, we need the funds to do that. So if you want to become a member, just go ahead and hit that join button. Every $1.99 helps. We do appreciate those that are in our membership now. We've got some new emojis coming soon that we're going to add to our emojis, because we're up to 11. We're one short of 40 members, so maybe somebody will be a member. We always have Super Chat turned on at the bottom for those of you that are not members and want to contribute and give us a little helping hand from time to time. That always helps. And don't forget to check out DeWitt 3D Canada tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The link is in the chat, so you can go and check that out. Give Tim a little bit of love and support.
I'll do everything in my power to participate in that one tonight, too. So if you, I don't know, is it a good thing to say if you want to see more of me, then tune in? Because maybe the viewership will drop a little bit.
I've got a big, giant honeydew list, so I'm off to go and do that. You guys have yourselves a great day. Brian, thanks for joining me again today. We got a super chat from Morgan Pierce, $5. Thank you very much, Morgan.
Super chat.
So all of that helps, and we do appreciate
sure to say
you guys for being.
Because
subscribe, hit that like button, leave a comment.
Okay. So here's my comment question for the week. For those of you who are really awesome, want to hang around to the end, I want to know, how has your communication been with vendors during the last 4 to 6 months? I'm leaving it as generic as possible because I'm not making this about countries or anything like that. But myself, I have had the worst experience to date in the last 6 months on communicating with all vendors, unless they had a physical location local to me that I could talk to somebody. And that's been a very frustrating aspect about printer building, printer repair, and all that over the last few months. But I'm curious to see if we are just isolated or if this has been a global issue, because I want to bring us back to the community involvement where the vendors and the users are combined in one space, that there's no barriers, if you will. There are some good ones, there's some bad ones, but in general, and at first we blamed world events, but now that we're seeing the global economy start to recover, it actually seems to be getting worse. And so that's why I was just curious what your guys' experiences are. And likewise, when Naomi Wu stepped in originally to start getting open source firmware, we'd like to start an initiative community-wide to get the vendors back integrated into the community again.
Yeah. All right, guys, with that said, we are out of here. You guys have yourselves a great week coming up. I will be in touch with a couple of people this week. So don't worry, I will get in touch with you. I just don't know what day yet. I have to look up in my schedule. And now I got a giant honeydew list to do, including the lawn.
Yes, we had thunderstorm this week. And we saw, I kid you not, I saw grass grow an inch in 1 hour. It's a very unusual thing. One of these days I'll set up a camera to show you guys, but when we get thunderstorms in Calgary, the grass just goes, boom. It's amazing.
So until we see you next time, remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print, and we will see you this week.
That's my bad. Bye for now. Hey.